going on? This is another podcast. I've got through with all the podcasts regarding the picks that Colin Coward went against. Now we're talking about the ones that I just purely like, and we're going to start with the New Orleans Saints. Now, let's start. Now, the New Orleans Saints are a team that I've loved to fade over the years. I've loved to bet against them when they're at home. But I think in a situation where I can get the Saints money line for pretty close to even money, I really, really like them. The Oakland Raiders, in my opinion, are going to be a little bit like the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They maybe will get rattled early on, but they're going to end up finding their rhythm and might go over 500. But I think that the New Orleans Saints at home in week one maybe fall into that Atlanta Falcons category where they're going to be really, really difficult to beat. A lot of people are selling the Saints this year and kind of suggesting that the Saints are really, really done. They've kind of gone over the hump. But I like the fact that Drew Brees just signed an extension. I like the fact they've got Brandon Cooks, Colby Fleener, and Willie Snead as their intended receivers. I like the fact they've got Unger and Armstead on that offensive line. I still think that this Saints offense can really, really trouble some people. They've bumped John Kuhn into the fullback position. And let's be honest, I think that this money is running pretty even, and I think there might even be a little bit of money on the Raiders. I know that a lot of people like the Raiders, but I think that betting against the Saints at home in a situation where it's pretty much a PK spot, they're -1, they're -2, I don't know if I would be so quick to sell them, man. I know this Saints defense is bad. This game should be really, really high scoring, but the Saints are a team that I like betting against when they're being asked to cover a big number. But as far as them just being asked to win and get a win outright, I think they can surprise a lot of people. From what I've heard, from what's been going on, what's been beeping in my ear, this game is pretty much a 50-50 split down the middle. Sharp money, public money, money, full stop. I'm going to read out to you the movement and where this has gone. Okay, so day one of betting, whatever. The Saints opened at -1 at -05, okay? They then went into -1.5, -1, -1.5, -1, -1, -1.5. These are all different bookies. So it opened at -1, and it's pretty much stuck around -1 and 1.5. And looking here on Scores and Odds, it's telling me that 61% of wagers are coming in on the New Orleans Saints. Looking at Covers.com, they've got 51% of wagers coming in on the New Orleans Saints. So according to these websites, there's probably a little bit more money on the Saints. I'm now going to go to thespread.com and see if I can figure out where they're getting their wagers, just to see if I can get a bit of an idea for it. NFL Week 1, the Saints, and it wouldn't surprise me if they had a bit more juice coming in on the Raiders. 55% of bets are coming in on the Saints, and 45% of bets are coming in on the Raiders. So I guess we're slightly siding with the public on this one, which is something that I'm okay with doing. But, you know, I'm still not sure. On the spread.com, this line has gone from the Saints -130 to the Saints -125, which means it's actually changed a little bit in favour of the Raiders. These numbers, I'm reading into it, and I do buy into the fact that the Saints are a little bit more of a popular pick, but I do think that the Raiders are certainly seeing a lot of love. And I know why the Raiders are seeing some love. They've got a strong football team, and they've got a good football team. Their offense is good. But I think that basically my argument for the Saints winning this game is the Saints, if you can get the Saints -1 at home, that's a good deal. If you can get the Saints -1 at home in a season opener, that's also a good deal. If you can get the Saints -1 at home against an Oakland Raiders defense that A, has a lot of quality personnel, but B, is very young, and C, is perhaps still figuring things out a little bit on defense. This Oakland Raiders team is really, really strong on paper. They've got Sean Smith and David Amerson in the corners. They've got Allen and Reggie Nelson at safety. They've got Bruce Irving. They've got Khalil Mack. Okay, they've got some really nice things happening on the defensive side of the ball. But I'm just a little bit worried about how they're going to handle the New Orleans Saints passing attack. Like, I know the Saints don't have any big names. Brandon Cooks is kind of creeping to household name territory. But I think that Sean Payton and Drew Brees are probably the best 1-2 QB and coach combination that we've seen a lot, that we've ever seen, that I've ever seen. They've won a Super Bowl together. They have these really, really good game plans a lot for these defenses, and I think against a team that's playing their first official game, with all these new defensive combinations, Sean Smith's playing his first game in a Raiders jersey, David Emerson's playing his first game in a Raiders jersey, Reggie Nelson also is. Bruce Irving. I'm just not sure how they're going to gel, and I think that, you know, Peyton and Breeze have had a whole offseason to figure out how they're going to beat this Raiders team. Obviously, by the same token, there's no film on this Raiders defense, so we really don't know what they're going to do. Obviously, there's preseason film, so there's perhaps not a whole lot for the Saints to go off. But I just think that this newly formed Raiders defense, yes, they're good on paper, but also they're young, and they're playing against two of the oldest and two of the wisest heads in the NFL. Does Breeze still have it in the tank? We're going to find out. But I'm just thinking to myself, hey, look, I love fading the Saints when they're a heavy favourite. But in a situation where they're a home favourite, they're a 1-point favourite, and the Oakland Raiders are travelling all the way from the West Coast down to New Orleans to the Superdome. I think it would take a mighty effort from the Oakland Raiders to walk away with the win. Could they do it? Absolutely. They've got a really good team. Well, I haven't spoken about their offense, but their offense is really strong. They've got Derek Carr, they've got Latavius Murray, they've got Amari Cooper. They've got some boys, okay? They've got a really good team. But the Saints defense has gotten a little bit better, and I guess it couldn't have gotten any worse after how bad they were a couple of years ago with Rob Ryan, you know, turning them into the single worst defense in NFL history. But I just think, man, I'm going off the fact that if I can get the Saints at an even money price, I'm going to take them. The Oakland Raiders are travelling. They've got a young defense, a newly formed defense. Maybe Sean Payton and Drew Brees are going to be able to take advantage of what they're going to be doing there. I just like it. I'm buying into the Raiders. I'm buying into the Bucs, but I'm buying into the more experienced and the more experienced quarterbacks and the more experienced coaches for Week 1. The Falcons, Matty Ryan, and the Saints, Drew Brees and Sean Payton. I just think they're probably going to have a little bit too much for these young, exuberant teams. I like the old heads in Week 1. I like the Saints. I like Payton. I think they're going to be able to create some problems for this Raiders defense that are playing together for the first time. You've heard my reasoning on the Saints. Go the Saints.